Hi, I'm Christopher Gullen, Professor of Communication at Westfield State University in Westfield, Massachusetts, United States of America. I'm currently in Florence, Italy, a city of 400,000 that is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the entire world. It's so popular that throughout the course of a typical year, this city of 400,000 residents balloons up with 7 million tourists that come from all over the world. Now, that amount of tourism, many cities would absolutely welcome with open arms. The problem is, this level of over-tourism is contributing to massive amounts of gentrification and rising, skyrocketing prices in housing. So much so that it's pushing residents out of the city. And we're going to see just what the problems are and how it's being addressed. So come along with us and let's see exactly what can be done about this level of over-tourism that is affecting all of Europe and large parts of the United States.
Florence is a city of antiquity and important cultural heritage, and is considered the birthplace of the Renaissance, with some of the most salient histories in art, architecture, culture, and intellectualism in all of Europe. In particular, the research study and teaching cases that are attached to this companion video will examine how governmental and commercial entities' attempts to remake central city locations, such as the Centro Storico or the Oltrarno districts in Florence, into tourist-friendly destinations have contributed to the creation of new forms of mass consumption and over-tourism, while exacerbating processes of recent residential and commercial gentrification. This unique form of gentrification in Florence drives out residential life and traditional urban activities, which results in a museumized and Disneyfied experience for tourists. Long-term residents have left this historic city center for satellite towns to take advantage of new, affordable housing and to avoid problems created by the significant influx of tourists in a relatively small area. These problems include lack of reliable public transportation or private car access within the city center, a high density of people in public spaces, and cultural clashes with tourists who are seen as disrespectful of Florence's cultural heritage, especially when they leave their trash on the church steps after a picnic.
These little boxes have become essentially a symbol or a scourge throughout the city of Florence. What typically happens is when you see these types of boxes, it indicates that there's a short-term rental, at least one or more, in this particular apartment building. One of the issues is that people who often purchase these short-term rentals, they don't even live in Italy. They may not live in Florence, so they're doing everything remotely. So they're not really contributing anything back to the actual city. At the same token, you're seeing these, and it's essentially flooding the city with all of these short-term rentals, which is becoming such a major problem to Florentines. What has recently happened is with the new mayor has issued an edict that these need to be removed. Okay, should be removed. It's very, very difficult to actually force people to take them off, but they're really making an effort with the new administration here in Florence to try and get rid of or curtail some of these short-term rentals that are causing so much problems for the city's residents. Now, I happen to be in Florence right now in November, specifically late November. One of the most popular tourist destinations throughout Europe at this time of year are the very, very popular Christmas markets. Okay, these are all over Europe, in most of the major cities, and even some of the smaller cities. Florence is one of the most popular in Italy, and a lot of it is also because of the tourism. It actually the Christmas markets used to open in the beginning of December. They're now opening usually the third week of November, and a lot of that is because of the fact that time coincides with the American Thanksgiving, and a lot of families come over to visit kids who are studying abroad.
As December rolls in, Florence transforms into a winter wonderland, with twinkling lights dancing across ancient piazzas and the scent of cinnamon and mulled wine drifting through the air. At the heart of the celebration is the Florence Christmas Market, nestled in the historic Piazza Santa Croce. Inspired by traditional German markets, this festive fair brings wooden stalls trimmed in garlands, brimming with handcrafted ornaments, artisanal gifts, and seasonal treats. You'll find everything from hand-painted ceramics and wool scarves to unique toys and nativity scenes carved with care. What's interesting about the Christmas market is just the fact that it has become so immensely popular that they actually had to open it early. As the crowds in the attached video show, Even though November isn't necessarily the high tourist season, that's actually reserved for the summer, it still is extraordinarily busy, even in the off season. And after the pandemic, as tourism starts to ramp up, it's only going to get more intense.
I'm currently on the banks of the Arno River, which runs right through Florence. Now, the city center is that way. However, this way you're getting out into the suburbs. The problem is, due to the massive amount of overtourism and people's responses to it by opening up new Airbnbs and other types of short-term rentals, has pushed residents out into the suburbs farther and farther away from the city center. Think about that. You're in a city, you live there, you're a native, and suddenly you have been displaced because of Airbnbs and other short-term rentals to accommodate more tourists. Well, while over-tourism might initially be thought of as a good problem to have, what really ends up happening is the city's culture, its flavor, its whole aesthetic ends up becoming diluted.
To further complicate matters, gentrification also has caused shifts in the commercial enterprises in and around the historical center. Grocery stores and open-air markets face soaring rents or are charged with being incongruous and inconsistent with the historic and artistic character of the city center and are forced out. Similarly, pharmacies, bookshops, cinemas, and literary cafes are being replaced by luxury shops, retail chains, and franchise shops appealing to tourist shoppers. Low-end retail shops offering cheap Florentine knockoffs draw sales away from artisans in areas such as Oltrarno and Centro Storico. Inferior quality goods trivialize the traditional image and quality of local production. Florence's artistic heritage is further challenged as artisan workshops close when craftsmen die with no one to take over the business. Some of these seen in the video are typical examples of cheap souvenirs that speak less to the historical heritage to the area than to tawdry stereotypes of Italian culture.